Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Kat. Happy 2026. This is my first video that I'm recording in the new year. If you are watching this video, you have made it. You have survived 2025 and welcome. Welcome to the new year. I hope it brings you everything you could hope for and everything you could wish for. For today's video, I decided to do a little recap of my favorite and least favorite books of 2025. In total, I read 37 books last year, which I am proud of that number. I know there are people who read more. If you read even one book last year, you should be proud of yourself. You should give yourself a round of applause, a pat on the back. Be proud of however many books you've read, and let's keep the momentum going. But anyways, let's get started. We're gonna start with my favorites of 2025. Starting off with The Wicked King, which is the second book in the Folk of the Air series. Overall, the series was okay. It wasn't the most memorable, but the second book, The Wicked King, really stood out. I felt like there was so much growth for our main character, Jude. I really loved her development. I loved her scheming and plotting and her cleverness. I just felt like the story itself was very intriguing, and I love seeing her rise to power. The next series is not a surprise at all because I just simply would not shut up about the series last year, and that is called All for the Game by Nora Sakavic. My favorite book out of the whole series so far is The King's Men, which I gave 6 stars to. It's the first and only book so far that I've given a 6 stars to. I just want to say that this series is one that has a very special place in my heart, and it is one of my favorite series of all time. And by no means is it perfect. It's actually a very flawed series of books. These books are not for everybody, I would say, so I would love to recommend it if you are somebody who can just ignore a lot of grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes, formatting errors, and plot holes. If there's things that you can just kind of put blinders on for, then you will have a good time. Generally speaking, I'd recommend people read this series and just give it a shot and form your own opinion. These characters are just some of the best written characters I've ever read. Nora Sakavic did such a wonderful job developing them throughout all the books. It's definitely a series that I will reread in the future. The next I have is The Captive Prince Trilogy by C.S. Pacat. This is another series that I really enjoy and is one of my top reads from last year. Specifically, The Princess Gambit. This was really fun, and it really showcased our characters' abilities and their growth. I love the way C.S. Pacat wrote our characters, Damien and Laurent. I love the way they developed them individually and how their relationship was explored as well. Both of them have a lot of trauma. They both have experienced a lot of traumatic things in their lives. So when it came to actually being in a relationship and exploring their feelings and love for each other, there was a lot of hesitancy and there was a lot of fear. In some romance books, characters kind of like throw caution to the wind and just let go of their fear and fall deeply in love. But that's not always the case, because I feel like in real life, when you've gone through trauma, it's hard to approach love with an open mind and open heart. It's hard to trust the other person to take care of you. There's always this doubt. I think C.S. Pacat did a wonderful job bringing that humanness to the relationship. I love the political intrigue in this book as well, because there's a lot of politics. It's like moving chess pieces. Then I have The Leviathan Wakes by Robert Jackson Bennett, and the standout book was the second book in the series, which is A Drop of Corruption. I read The Tainted Cup last year and I gave it a 4.0 star rating. I thought it was good. It held my attention, but at times it didn't keep it there. But I decided to read Drop of Corruption anyways because I did like Tainted Cup enough. Drop of Corruption blew all of my expectations out of the water. It was the perfect book. It had everything. I was so engaged with Anna and Din, our main characters, with this plot, with all these murders, this mystery. Also the lore, the story, background of the Leviathans is explored more. We get to learn more about how some people have used Leviathans like body parts and blood for like healing or to acquire other sort of powers. So the Leviathans have properties that people use, and so we get to like kind of see what those properties are. If you are into like Sherlock Holmes or you like that Sherlock Watson dynamic in a story, then you're gonna like this one because it definitely takes inspiration from that. The highlight in Drop of Corruption was definitely the author's writing style. So good. Like, I can't even express how much I loved it. I don't know what Robert Jackson Bennett put in his writing, but it kept me hooked. I'm so excited for the third book. I think it's coming out sometime mid this year. I have it pre-ordered already, so once that book reaches my doorstep, I am going to dive right in. Then we have Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. This was just a wild, chaotic, messy ride. It was very gothic, very moody, dark academia vibes in here, old school, surrounded by a scary, mysterious forest. We have an unreliable narrator. We have two boys who are obsessed about each other. I really felt a lot of the dark, gothic, macabre vibes. It's great when you read it as a seasonal read, so like during the autumn or winter time, I feel like it is the perfect atmospheric book. There were times where I felt a little lost, but that's again because we have an unreliable narrator who has hallucinations and has some bouts of memory loss. In this book, we have Andrew, who likes to write fairy tale stories depicting monsters, and Thomas likes to draw those monsters. There are some of Thomas's drawings depicted in the pages, so you actually get a glimpse of his drawings, and some of them are really scary and creepy. I liked how the book explored grief and guilt. I feel like those were two of the biggest themes that resonated with me, at least. I like the way that it manifested as monsters. At least that's my takeaway from this story. The story is so ambiguous and so open to interpretation and speculation. And then I have The Diviners by Libba Bray. I read the first book, The Diviners, end of 2025. I felt like it was the perfect way to end the year because it was a 5-star read. I truly enjoyed the story so much. Looking forward to finishing it. I think Libba Bray is a fantastic, phenomenal writer. The way she crafted and weaved this world where the supernatural coexists with this time period, the time period being the 1920s, and then the way she explored all these different important subjects such as racism, religion, classism, immigration, the way she kind of like was able to take all of it and just construct such a wonderful world and plot was phenomenal. And it's just something I don't see nowadays. With a lot of books now, I feel like the writing and just the thought and research that goes into a book is lacking. The other thing I like about her writing is that I felt transported into this time period. The descriptions aren't just being thrown in my face, like they're not being spoken to me. Instead, I feel like I'm there and I can experience whatever the author is describing. I definitely felt very, very immersed in this world. It takes a certain sort of skill to do that. Libba Bray definitely possesses that skill. This is a completed series, which means that I don't have to wait around for the rest of the books to come out. I think I will take my time reading this series just because I have a feeling each book is going to be really good and I don't want to rush and finish it. That's the sad thing about a completed series, is that if you really like it, once it's done, unless the author decides to continue it later. I am definitely going to continue the series in 2026, but just kind of sprinkle it throughout the year. It's going to be like a treat for me to read this book, so I'll treat it like a treat. Next, I have The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This book was really good up until the ending. I did not like that ending. If you watched Black Mirror, specifically the episode White Bear, it gives White Bear. So in this book, we have our main character, Aiden. He's trying to figure out who kills Evelyn Hardcastle. He wakes up in the body of a different guest during that day, and he basically has to solve this mystery. And so we get multiple POVs throughout the book. But Stuart Turton is able to differentiate each POV, each character so well. I could tell exactly who Aiden wakes up in without even having to know who the character, like what the character's name is. That's how well Stuart Turton wrote these characters and described the point of view and put the reader inside these specific characters' heads. Each character was distinguishable from the next, something that not a lot of authors are able to accomplish all the time, especially with multiple POVs. Sometimes the authors start to blend the voice of every character. You can't really tell whose voice, whose POV you're reading, and it can all seem the same. She wrote everything to the smallest detail. Like, this plot was so tight, so tightly woven. I just loved how the author crafted that. So I thought that was really fun. And then we have The Dark Days to See. This is the last book in the Lady Helen Rexall series, which is like an older YA historical fantasy series. I had zero hopes and zero expectations of liking this book. And that's because the first two books were such a drag. I did not want to pick up this third book at all. I was dreading it, but there was a part of me that was like, let's just get it over with. Let's finish the series. But to my utter surprise, I really liked this book. I don't know if it's because I changed as a reader, my palette expanded, or what. Or it was just the right book at the right time. Writing was really good. The pacing was really good. The characters were really good. Everything that I had an issue with in the previous two books were improved upon in this book. So I don't know if it was the book itself or it was me. I think this book took place during the Victorian era in England. I did like the way the author explained how that time period worked, especially for women and their place in society. Although there were times where there were just paragraphs and paragraphs of description. As a whole, it wasn't really my favorite. Just this third book was a standout. If you like a slow book, slowly paced out book, then this is the book for you. I mean, or this is series for you, sorry. It's not like an adrenaline-inducing book series, but it can be good if you are the right reader for it. I have House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Riley Sager, my top thriller author, he is a polarizing author. There are people who like his books. There are people who very much dislike his books. I have liked every single Riley Sager book I've read so far, which is surprising. I was waiting for at least one of them to be a not so favorite, but that has not been the case. In the beginning, it was pretty slow, especially with our character spying on the couple across the lake. Like every day it was just scenes after scenes of her spying on them, so that got very repetitive. But then you get to the later half of the book with the supernatural elements taking place. It was wild. I can't even say if it was a good twist or not, but it was just one that swept me off my feet, one that I did not expect. I just feel like the author took a creative risk, and I could respect that. I can appreciate that sort of genre blending that went into this book. And then I have the Heartstopper series. I loved both volumes that I read last year. The standout one was the second volume. I loved the vulnerability that Nick and Charlie shared. I loved how they explored more of their feelings and how they're willing to just be patient with each other because they have this mutual understanding. The thing that really stood out to me was Alice Oseman's artwork. Her art style is so cute, so it really captures the innocence of Nick and Charlie's relationship. Looking forward to reading the rest of the books in the series. So now we're gonna go over my least favorites of 2025. Starting off with one that I hate to put on here, and that is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I just felt like it was very slow. It read like slice of life, and that's not my favorite sort of book to read. The storyline and the characters, I could not care about that much. I'm not going to not recommend it. I think, again, it is the right book for the right reader, especially if you're looking for something a little slower and something that's light fantasy, low stakes, just whimsical and magical. Like if you're into that sort of thing, then I think you will like it. Next book on this list is Never Lie by Frida McFadden. It was so childish and juvenile. These characters were very childish. Twist at the end was ridiculous. Overall, the book was just not for me. This is my first Frida McFadden book. It probably isn't the one I should have started off with. I also have The Teacher by Frida McFadden, which also has some polarizing reviews. So I don't know if that's another good one to read. If I don't like The Teacher, I'm planning to give Frida McFadden a last chance. Then I have the I Hunt Killers trilogy by Barry Lyga. I'm also including the prequel short story. It's called Before the Hunt. This trilogy, I don't know what to say. I did like the way the author did a deep dive exploration of our main character Jasper's psychology, because he was raised by a serial killer father. He was taught everything his father knew. He even helped his father hunt. He was there when his father was, victims. When Jasper was 14, I think, his father got arrested. So now he has to recover from all that, from his very abnormal childhood. I like the way the author kind of explored what their life is like, what their outlook on society and humans is like, and then what their outlook on police and authority figures is like too. I did enjoy Jasper's character. I think he was the only character that I liked. Everyone else and everything else was abysmal, especially when we get to the last book in the trilogy and we learn more about Jasper's parents and the real reason Jasper was born. It was some of the most twisted, disturbing shit I have ever read. I cannot believe these books are labeled as YA. These books should not be labeled as YA. There's no freaking way. I feel so bad for Jasper. He's going to need lifelong, copious amounts of therapy. There are a lot of issues I had with these 3 books, and it made me feel a little wary about the author and the direction he was going in. Then I read Before the Hunt, which is the collection of the prequel short stories, and I absolutely hated it. I am planning to give this whole series away or sell it on Penguin Books. So if you're interested in reading a trilogy about a teenage boy who was raised by his demented and depraved serial killer father, I will have it on my Penguin Books. Next, I have Shifter Romances the Writer by Kristen Painter. I have come to realize that this series is just not working for me. In the beginning, I found one book that I liked and I gave a 4.0 star to. The rest of the books were 3.5, 3, 2.5. That's where it's been averaging. The sad part is I have bought pretty much all the books in the series so far. I have not bought the most recent one that was released last year because that's when I realized like this is not the series for me and I don't want to continue anymore. There's a part of me that wants to just give it all away. I don't care to finish the rest of the series. I can DNF it and I'll be fine. But then there's another part of me that's like, I bought the books, so I should read it on principle. I think I might just read the rest of the books in series for the sake of reading what I bought. Next, I have Queen of Nothing, which is the 3rd book in the Folk of the Air series. I felt disappointed reading it because I really left on a good note with The Wicked King. I was expecting this to be a great conclusion, and not to say that it did not end well. I just expected more, and I was underwhelmed when reading this book. I did feel like Jude's character was watered down. Her whole personality, her intelligence, her skills were all watered down, and suddenly it was all about Cardan, who is a character I don't like, and I know that's a very unpopular opinion. I get it. A lot of Cardan girlies out there. This book was just not my favorite in the series, and this is the book that determined whether I was going to keep this trilogy on my shelves or give it away. Since I did not like Queen of Nothing, I decided to give away the series. So if you're interested, I'll have it on my Penguin Books. I was hoping to get more out of this book, but that's okay. At least I finished the series. And last but not least, I have All Shall Mourn, which is the 3rd and final book in the None Shall Sleep series. I feel very lukewarm about this book because I do think it ended pretty good. This book shares the same issues that I had with the first 2 books, and that is the pacing. These 3 books basically are about 2 teenagers who were hired by the FBI to track down a teenage serial killer. And the reason that these 2 teenagers were selected by the FBI is because they have very specific experiences that can help them track down the serial killer. With a book that has to do with like FBI and serial killers, you kind of think that there'd be a bit more action, but it was very much lacking in that. I didn't really have much of an issue with the trilogy as a whole. I would say it was okay. I'm going to keep these books though because the covers are very pretty and I love Ellie Marney. She is one of my favorite authors. That is a quick look at my faves and least faves of last year. I feel like I generally read more good books. That's all I could really ask for, right? You can't expect every book to be a 5-star, even though that's what we hope for. If you read any of these books, please let me know your thoughts and I will see you guys in the next video. Next video, I think I'm going to do a January, February, March TBR, so be on the lookout for that. Please take care of yourself and take care of those around you. I will see you guys later. Bye.